What's going on, guys? So in this quick video, what I really want to do is, so this is probably gonna be the last video you see this car in, and I'm not gonna be working on it in this video. I'm just gonna be showing you guys quickly what I look for before I purchase. Now, depending on the location you're in, one of the main things you want to make sure of is how bad the car is rusted. A lot of times, guys, most cases, you won't see anything up top. You have to look underneath. Look at what you might be working on. If it's a project car, you're definitely most times going to be doing suspension work or touching stuff under the car as far as like doing ball joints and whatnot. So you want to check, make sure those bolts are pretty good, and it's definitely something you can get on and off, because they'll definitely cause you problems later down the road. But if you're willing to tackle them, then you can try to negotiate on price from that as well. So something to keep in mind, man. But always check under the car. Now, certain body styles, I'll give you some prime examples if you're looking into buying an Accord yourself. Certain body styles have a really bad habit of freezing the lower bolt for the rear suspension. So you have to hold the shock and the spring in there. There's two bolts up top, and then there's a third bolt that goes through the lower control arm in the back. That third bolt will freeze up in there from rust and stuff, and I've had it happen before. It is a pain to get out. Most of the time you have to do all new bushings in the lower control arm and everything, but it's manageable. Now, the problem is that is more common with a 94 to 97 body style, not on the 90 to 93. So again, if you're looking at one like this, you should be okay, but it does happen. So something to look out for. Another thing with CB7s is they almost always have this bit of rust here, and it comes from the guarding that they put into the fender from factory. It collects water, and over time it just rusts it out right there. So if you see that, don't panic. Just check again. Just make sure you check underneath the car and make sure that's good. If it's good enough daylight, you can see, but sometimes you need to bring your light or something with you just to check it out and make sure that the bottom is good. That's pretty normal. That'll happen even in somewhere like California, or somewhere that doesn't have a lot of rust. That still will happen, because it's a water situation more so than a salt road treatment type of situation. But yeah, something to look out for. Now, guys, something else that I look at is I try to figure out, it's hard sometimes, but I try to figure out how long a car has been sitting. You don't want to deal with something that's been sitting for like 5+ years. If possible, it's better to find something that's only been sitting for like a couple months to a year max. Now, if it's something you really want, sometimes you kind of let stuff slide, but for the most part, I try to find stuff that's been sitting for no more than a year, because after a while, man, the gas tanks will rust out, and then you'll have all that to deal with, as well as trying to get it back up and running. So it's just better to find something that's only been sitting for a little bit of time, not like a whole long time. Like this brown car has been sitting for like at least 5 years, I would say. And because of that, man, we were having the fuel pump, the whole assembly in there was like rusted completely together. So definitely something to think about when you're trying to purchase a car. Next up, I want to say, try to find a car, if possible, that still has an engine in it. again, the circumstances change and vary, man, and it's difficult to gauge what you're gonna run across. But guys, I've done a lot of these, and one thing I can say, it's so much better when you're the one that takes everything apart, so you know everything's there to put it back together. Now with this car, for example, when we purchased it, it did have an F23 in it with the transmission, but upon tearing it down, some of the bolts were missing, some bolts were slack, and there was a lot of stuff that I just didn't have, like these pieces that go for the radiator. I'm gonna have to rob them off the turbo car before I sell it. I feel like there was some more stuff. It didn't have an intake. I had to make that myself, and it didn't have a battery tray. Like, it was a lot of stuff missing, and yeah, you can most times go to a junkyard and find, you know, the small odd and end stuff, but it'll save you a lot more time in hunting if you can find the car complete like this. I mean, I had to buy axles. This thing didn't have any axles in it, so it's just more money saved that way. So if you can help it, try to get it complete as a unit, so when you're swapping, you'll have most everything. Really, the only time when dealing with Accords anyway, the only time you'll have to change out stuff like axles and the transmission itself and everything is if you do like a K swap. But all H and F motors interchange in Accord, so it's pretty much plug and play. The transmission from your factory Accord will bolt right to the H series motor or the F20B motor, and you can just continue on from there. And another thing, adding on to that, when you do a swap, always use the factory wiring harness that comes with your generation car. So if the harness you have is too cut up and you can't, you know, get it to work, go to a junkyard, pull the original harness from your same car. Don't go getting Prelude harnesses and H22 harnesses. People are marking those up, trying to sell them, and they're fooling people, man. They're fooling you guys into buying it, thinking that's what you need to run an H motor. You don't need that harness to run an H motor. You need a couple clips for the injectors, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is just gonna be, is it in the right place? You might have to extend something, or you know, just move some stuff around. But do not go purchasing those Prelude harnesses, or H22 as they call it, harnesses for expensive amounts, when you can just go to your local pick and pull, grab an OEM harness from whatever year car you're swapping, and stick that right in there, and it'll work perfectly fine. I've done it with every car that I've ever swapped. I've never had an issue. So definitely use an OEM harness that comes with your Honda that you're swapping. Okay, so next you'll want to make sure that you have a decent interior. I like to try to find stuff that might need a little vacuuming and light cleaning and stuff, such as this one, but everything's pretty much minty in here. Door panels look pretty decent, and yeah, it's kind of nice if you can find something like this. One thing I won't touch that a lot of people probably will or whatever, but I would not mess with a car that does not have a dashboard in place. I don't know why. That's like one of my biggest peeves. I just hate. I probably could take a dash out, I'm not gonna lie. I've never done it, but guys, I'm not buying something if the dash is like all out and all the wires and stuff is just hanging everywhere. It's too much for me, so I don't mess with it. But again, it's just your preference. This video is purely about what I do as far as buying a old Honda like this. So I always try to make sure the dash is intact, and we have pretty decent interiors, especially if I'm gonna resell. Now, if it's something I'm gonna keep, I'm not too worried about the interior, because I'm more for sanitary. Like, if it's clean and it got a stain, it won't come out of something, I don't really care. But main thing is it's all there. Believe it or not, it's actually better to buy a car that does not run, in my opinion. The main reason for that is, a lot of times, of course, it's going to be cheaper, but another reason is, for an example, the car that I have the turbo setup in, the guy wanted $1,500 for it, I think. Swore up and down you could drive the thing back home. We get all the way down to 3 hours, and as soon as we tried to start it, I knew it was a head gasket failure. So we done drove all this way thinking that I'm gonna be able to drive it back. Didn't have a dollar or trailer or anything. Ended up having to come all the way back, and then we went back the next weekend, negotiated them down. Body was in really great shape, so I still ended up giving them $800 for the car. But you know, like it's those things, man, you don't know for sure. Sometimes you can get a decent driver if it's insured and it's running and stuff and you can drive it. Most time it's okay, but if it's a car that does not have tags on it, you gotta be careful because it's some reason that they're not driving it. Nobody just lets a car just sit like that unless you get there and they got like 3 or 4 cars and like, all right, they're getting rid of it. But sometimes you just gotta be careful, man, because people will try to get you with a setup that isn't worth much, but they're trying to get a lot for it. And so for me, knowing what I'm gonna do anyway, I like to do my own work. A lot of times I just buy shells or cars that's got like a hole in the block or transmission might be bad, or sometimes you'll find deals, which is weird, but people will buy the stuff it needs. A lot of times it being a clutch gets bad, it's slipping too bad to drive it, so they'll buy the clutch but they never get it installed, and then they'll just sell it with the brand new clutch. So all you got to do is put it in and you got yourself a good driver. So sometimes you find a deal like that, they'll be pretty cheap and you get one, and most times you don't have to buy nothing, but you always got to check because, again, going back to an example, one of my homies from Roanoke Rapids thought he needed a clutch. Turned out it was his transmission. But a lot of times, guys, you can tell a clutch versus a transmission before you pull it apart. So when you get there, man, as long as that car start up and you can like test stuff, you'll be able to tell if the transmission is messed up or if it's just the clutch. So, but yeah, that being said, man, a lot of times you can get a great deal like that. They'll come with the clutch. You can just get it if you're mechanically inclined, put the clutch in, boom, you got a driving car. Then you can start modifying it, doing whatever, coilovers, paint it, whatever you want to do. Great way to start off, in my opinion, as well. But it's just something, man. There's so many options when it comes to these Hondas, guys. And for me, like I said, man, I'm all about cheap. Sometimes I get myself into more work than I really want to, but at the end of the day, I'm not relying on driving it. I'm just trying to get content out. So if I have to take a couple weeks to figure everything out, that's just what I do. But yeah, I hope that this video will help somebody out that might be trying to buy a project car, and you may be wondering how I get my project cars. Those are some of the reasons. If you guys have any things that y'all do differently, leave it down in the comments below. If you're new to the video or new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And guys, if you could, just hit the like button for me on this video. Greatly helps out the channel. But as always, guys, I will catch y'all next time. Remember, respect all bills. Peace out.